Right. So welcome everyone to the first session of the year, 2022, and here's hoping that this is a much better year than the last few have been. I'm Andrea Gibbons. I'm the new UK Network Coordinator for Food for Life's Get-togethers, and I'm building on the amazing work of my predecessor, Joe Hines, who some of you may know. But I just wanted to give a brief hello and just to say about the Food for Life Get-togethers program. If you don't know it, we're basically celebrating and supporting different ways that people connect through food. It's like very basically, and thinking about good food and thinking about what that actually means in terms of how we grow it, who grows it, where it's grown, how that then gets to our plates, how we cook it, how we share it with each other, how we access it, all of these different aspects of food, and how that can sort of bring communities together. And so we kind of, the Get-togethers looks at sort of at the level of individual and community, but of course we're also connected to schools and work in catering and rest care homes, and then the broader Soil Association, which is working on lots of different fronts. And so again, thinking about how all of this connects to like combating food poverty and around food justice issues and also climate change and kind of the bigger picture. And so it's like super exciting. And I'm actually going to put I'm going to put on I have too many screens open, and I'm taking time. So bear with any technical things because Zoom's like a frustrating thing. But I just want to say that like if you want any more information about Get-togethers or to join the mailing list or anything else, I'm going to put our website in the chat. And just to say that also, because it's the time of growing and planting, we're about to enter the time, like anxiously waiting to get my hands dirty. We actually have a small grant program that's currently running, and so you can find more information on the website as well. It's just very small, £150 to do activities around planting and sharing plants, and so think about community activities around that. So just to invite you to have a look at that at some point. But I'm super excited our first session is sort of being kicked off by Hull and the Hull Food Partnership and looking at sort of how to engage young people with food. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Anna, who's going to introduce their project. And yeah, welcome Anna.
Thank you.
And I'm bringing your slideshow up.
Thank you.
Seamless. It's going to be seamless, everyone. Okay,
so this is going to be a really quick introduction to the work of Hull Food Partnership and why we've begun to engage with young people in Hull so that they will understand what they eat has a direct impact on their health, wealth and well-being. Next slide, please. Hull Food Partnership formed in 2016. It's a member of the Sustainable Food Places Network and seeks to connect businesses, organisations and individuals across Hull. Our activities are overseen by our chair and our steering group. We function as a bridge connecting everyone in the city to realise a vision of sustainable food for all, working across every sector of our food systems and culture, from policymakers and city leaders to businesses, local food producers, community organisers, public sector workers, citizens and volunteers. Next slide, please. At present, we have 4 main strands to our work. Can I have the next slide, please?
Sorry. Is that not it?
Okay, thank you. At present, we have 4 main strands to our work. The first is taking Hull from the Bronze to Silver Sustainable Food Places Award, which intrinsically linked to the second strand of delivering an overarching food strategy for Hull, which is being supported by the local Health and Wellbeing Board. The third element is the development of a food poverty action plan to address the systemic issues relating to poverty, which has blighted Hull since the 1970s when it lost its fishing and shipping industries. The fourth strand is our Veg Cities work, which has been running on and off since 2018. This directly engages with families and children, encouraging to grow, eat and share vegetables. Next slide, please.
Yeah. Encourage me, tell me the benefits of it and tell me how it works.
Yeah. What, with the families?
Yeah.
In order to do this,
when they're young,
yeah,
I think you might have to ask people to mute.
Yeah, can everybody mute, please?
Yeah,
In order to do this, we draw upon the skills of the partnership, which consists of and 107 individuals who have signed the Whole Food Charter. We employ 3 members of staff to deliver the work programme, and their work is directed by the steering group, which is drawn from public, private and VCSE sectors. Funding for the post is largely through Sustainable Food Places, which demands that Hull City Council match funds in order to demonstrate their commitment to the work. However, it's important to note that we're independent from the council and act as a critical friend. This funding just covers salaries, and any additional project work has to be fundraised for separately. Next slide, please. This work is driven by our belief that a transition to a healthy, sustainable and more equitable food system requires not only strong national policy, but also collaborative action between policymakers, businesses and civil society at the local level. From obesity and diet-related ill health to food poverty and waste, climate change and biodiversity loss to declining prosperity and social dislocation, we believe food is not only at the heart of some of our greatest problems, but is also a vital part of the solution. Due to the complexity and interconnectedness of these issues, we promote a systems approach that involves and connects key actors at all levels and across all parts of the food system. This approach is encapsulated in the 6 key issues of our framework for action, which informs the development of Hull's food strategy. Next slide, please. These 10 ambitions for Hull encapsulate a vision of the future that is quite different from the current reality. We're in the process of gathering data in advance of a public consultation on the Hull food strategy, and this vision is very much the beginning of the conversation, which we will hope will trigger other big ideas and stimulate a desire from citizens to take control of the narrative about what Hull is like as a place to live, work, learn, play and eat. Because we have to be honest that at the moment we're starting from quite a low bar. Next slide, please. Hull ranks highly across multiple indices of deprivation. The cumulative and multi-generational impact of these over the long term has resulted in a local population with higher risks of childhood obesity, poor physical and mental health, including a higher risk of suicide, low educational attainment, and a lower life expectancy compared with the rest of the UK. The financial burden this places on the council and the wider economy is not limited to health and social care, but comes to bear upon education and learning, safeguarding and child protection, the criminal justice system, infrastructure such as housing and businesses, a reliable workforce that is resilient and skilled, and the ability to retain investment in the city as a whole. Household food insecurity encompasses both the affordability of food as well as its availability within local communities. It's important to ensure that people can access good quality food in a socially acceptable way and have sufficient certainty about how they will secure a healthy diet for themselves and their households. This is the reason we established the Hull Food Inequality Alliance and the work that Cara, our Food Inequality Officer, has been doing on developing a food poverty action plan. We want to move away from the concept of equality, meaning that everyone is treated in the same manner, but towards acknowledging a just food system means supplying people with opportunities based on individual need. This is not a quick fix, it will take time, but the development of a coherent food strategy that is supported by the council will enable systemic change. We also realised some voices were not being heard, notably those of children and young people, for whom a poor diet in early life can have the most dramatic impact. So we applied for food funding from Food Power to initiate work with young people, which turned into the Nurture Hull project. Next slide, please. Our first step was to contract the Junior Design Factory, which is founded by Creative Briefs and is a working design studio run entirely by young people aged from 8 upwards. The designers at the Junior Design Factory are all young people who like to learn differently. The junior designers work on proposals for paying clients, and the young team take the lead roles in design, project management and promotion of their work. The young designers told us they were delighted to work alongside Hull Food Partnership in producing an exciting new logo for our Nurture Hull project. Josh, 17, has been at the Junior Design Factory since he was 14 and has project managed the logo design, whilst junior creatives aged 8 to 12 included Rose, Daniel, Leda, Jo, Poppy and Tilly, and they worked in their own fields ranging from research, ideation and concept illustration. Assisting them as middleweight designers have been Naomi and Timmy, who have skills in web design and digital technology. Project manager Josh said, "This project makes things real for us. We've got a team from all across the UK working together on this with different skills and loads of imagination. It gives us an opportunity to show the world what we can do, and it's been nice to be part of something during lockdown." Here you can see the final iterations of their design work, which we are using across our campaign materials. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening. We can all be contacted by the links here. Now I'll pass you on to Carrie Gill, who will tell you about the work the Warren have been doing supporting young people in Hull. Thank you.
So I work at the Warren Youth Project. We're a youth project in the city centre of Hull. This is our main snack bar area, as you can see in the picture. We were established in 1983. The Warren provides vital support to young people aged 14 to 29. We're a youth-led organisation, so whatever the young people want to do, that whatever they want us to put money into and put our energies into, we then do that for them. We provide a safe place for young people to be who they are, to be who they want to be who they can't necessarily be at home. And we give them a voice as well, but we also challenge them on some of their opinions. So it's a great, lively space. Next slide, please. So this is when we went into lockdown number 1 of what seems like 15. So lockdown number 1, we reacted to it really quickly. We shut the building down as we were instructed to do, but we did keep some of our services still going. So we continued to deliver food parcels. Throughout that first lockdown, we delivered 1,830 food parcels. We delivered 773 counselling sessions, be that over Zoom, FaceTime, but also conveniently, a park bench is 2 meters long. So we even did some counselling sessions over park benches. We did 330 children's activity packs to keep our young people's children engaged and entertained. We made 26 support films about how to get through that really dreadful time. We delivered £8,000 worth of care products, period products, shower gels, deodorants, that kind of thing. Now, one thing that we did establish very early on is that we needed to make sure our food parcels contained a good amount of nutrition. So we ensured that each food parcel had 6,000 calories in it. Those calories equated per person that was living in the house. So some parcels were really big. So those food parcels contained a really good quality of protein, slow release carbohydrates, but we also ensured that they contained some chocolate as well. That was the main thing. So that everybody was getting the nutrition that they needed. So slow release carbs, protein, and also something just to keep morale up. Next slide, please. Now, some things that we did notice during lockdown, there was a gender inequality. The majority of people requesting food parcels was women in the household and mums. There wasn't much of a shared responsibility towards sourcing the food. It was predominantly done by the females of the house. We also noticed very early on that our young people had very low culinary skills. They didn't know how to cook with what we were getting to them. And of course, at the time, that initial few weeks of lockdown, everywhere was shut apart from the shops. So takeaways were initially shut. And it's something that a lot of our young people really rely on. So we realised that we needed to teach them how to cook. And on the back of that, we built a kitchen. We had a space within the Warren that was just unused. It was a dumping ground for all broken furniture. Anything that we didn't really use just got thrown into this room. We changed it into a kitchen. One of our local kitchen designers came on board and we created a wonderful workspace called Scran. So if we can get the next slide. This is a video of Scran, if we can play.
All these plants for sale. Yeah, so it's £300, but they would have been £1,000. Just under £1,000.
Do we have the sound on the film?
But, so it's going to look amazing.
So many of the bulbs are coming up in here.
Yeah.
Just make sure that it's quite deep enough, because when the soil shrinks, if the top's sticking out, it's going to dry out.
Okay.
Some of these ones that I've got here on this part that we're planting at the moment are ones that
Charlie,
really.
Okay, the
mute
video.
your microphone, please.
Yeah, can people please mute? And I think I need to like figure out how to set it up for sound. I have to like turn my sound on to share, like,
There we go.
which might take me a second. So I don't know if you want to. Oh, here we go. Okay, that was easier than I thought. But we're also running a little over, so. Is that working now?
So this is Scran. Scran came about during lockdown 1. And what we realised when we were distributing all of our food parcels, that a lot of our young people weren't as confident with the ingredients that we were sending out, and we had people requesting really sort of easy things to cook. So Scran came about because we have developed this idea that we are going to try and give people confidence in a kitchen. So it's a kind of a mixture between a home kitchen and a commercial kitchen.
So today we made a load of sausage rolls, or gourmet sausage rolls. We went a bit beyond your normal sausage rolls, so I think it was a really good day. Everyone had a great time.
My highlight of the last 2 days would be learning how to make bread. I literally have been wanting to learn how to make bread since I was like 5-6 years of age. And just the laughs we've had with all the people that have come in to help, Carrie and the other young people, it's been real fun.
It is absolutely amazing. I was a customer here as a young person 30 years ago, and it's quite astonishing to see how things have changed here in that time. It's just really nice being around people who want to learn how to do this, and it really excites me. So to be able to share that with other people who are keen to learn it's just lovely. It warms the heart.
My highlight's been making the sausage rolls, because I've never known how to make a sausage roll with fillings in like bacon, cheese and sauces.
The plan for Scran for the future is a combination of teaching people home cooking, but also they use the Curve, which is our new digital offer, to do a level 2 in food hygiene and food safety.
The meat sausage.
Depends what it is. But I have to make your own pastry now, so I actually can't be bothered. So I'll just eat the sausage on its own.
Is that you, Carrie?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I was muted. I think we'd learn by now. Can we get to the next slide?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we then engaged with Rooted in Hull. We discovered Rooted when we were looking around for an allotment space, and then realised that none of us knew what to do on an allotment. We wanted to get young people back outside from being in lockdown. So we needed to look around for something that we could do. So we started with popping down there and building the relationship up. It's not too far away from the city centre, the Rooted in Hull project. We needed our young people to become more connected with the environment and to heal problems that had arisen from being in lockdown with their mental health, and to connect people back up again. So yeah, we discovered Rooted in Hull. So if we could get the next slide. Brilliant. It was set up initially by myself and a colleague who's a counsellor at the Warren, and it was all about getting people back together and bringing people together, which is so important. And being outside is really important to our young people as well, having been locked down for so long. Yes, next slide, please. These are some of our young people. They're great. We have an ethos at the Warren of empowerment. We empower our young people to make wise choices in the areas that they live. in all aspects of their life, be it what they consume, be it what they do with their spare time, be it what they do with their education. There's an old African proverb that I'm sure we're all familiar with. It takes a village to raise a child. This means it takes community to allow people to grow and be healthy. And that's what being a member of the Whole Food Partnership is about for us, and being part of Rooted. It's about being a community. And if we can bring the community together, this is great. This is what a community needs. It needs lots of people working with our young people to bring them together and bring them on. Next slide. This is Megan. Megan is one of our young people who's invested herself completely into working with Rooted and working with the Whole Food Partnership. Megan has additional learning needs, and through her hard work and her passion for being outside, being down at the allotment and being around food, she's managed to pass her food hygiene level 1. She then went on to study for her level 2, which she passed last summer with absolute flying colours. She was amazing. Just before her exam, we went down to the allotment, we went down to Rooted in Hull and just had a couple of hours of Megan to relax herself, ready for exam. And Martin, who runs Rooted in Hull, he said to Megan, do you want to put a bee costume on? And going with, not a bee costume, as you can see, a bee suit, and go into the apiary, and she just put it straight on. There was no hesitation with it. And then we went back to the Warren, and Megan sat her exam and she passed it with flying colours. Megan now works in a nursery, cooking for babies and children. She's great. She's brilliant. She's really excelled. Next slide. So these 2 slides that are the end of this presentation kind of sum up what being part of the Whole Food Partnership and working with Rooted in Hull. These are some of our young learners, and they're building a beehive. This was just a couple of weeks ago. And just like bees form this community to make something amazing. They make, they fertilize our plants, our trees. They form their own community. And the next slide. And that's what we've done. We've formed a community in Hull that is enabling us through food, through partnership working, to produce something wonderful. And I hope that can be replicated across the country in other different projects that you're all working on. Yeah, so it's great. Thank you. That's the end of the.
There we go.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. No worries. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Cara, the Food Inequality Officer for Whole Food Partnership. And I'm mainly going to be talking to you about, well, we've heard from Carrie and Anna about kind of the Whole Food Partnership and the Warren project separately. And I'm going to talk specifically about the 2 projects that we've worked on together alongside Rooted in Hull, and how we've attempted to encourage food literacy in young people through these projects. So if you can go on to the next slide, please. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So the first project that we did was called Nurture Hull, and it was based around these activity packs that we developed with young people called What Do You Put in Your Mouth? And these activity packs were all about trying to encourage young people to think more deeply about the importance of food in their city. So more about food justice and the right to food. Is it fair that some people have access to healthy, nutritious food on a regular basis? Why is that the case? And all the way through the project, we made a special effort to make sure that it came directly from the young people. So it wasn't kind of like a top-down approach, but rather like the young people. As you can see on the left-hand bottom corner, we got young people on Zoom when we were back in those days, but we couldn't actually meet in person to develop the activity packs. And then once we were able to meet in person, we then hosted the sessions at the Warren with the activity packs. So we've got a really cool quote from one of the young people who worked on developing the activity pack, saying that she really enjoyed the project, and these packs managed to make the important topic of food inequality light and easy to bring up in conversation. So that's really what we were aiming for. Next slide, please. So to give you an idea of the type of activities that we were looking at inside of the activity packs, we did things like ordering off the menu, and it was like a really creative kind of vending machine. And then the young people had to pick which priority in the vending machine mattered most to them. So if it was sustainable packaging, affordable fresh produce, limits to junk food advertising in their city, and then stick it in a priority list. And then it kind of invoked conversation around which was a priority and why. In a similar vein, we also did a page called Get Your Megaphone Out, which was all about if you had the opportunity to speak to a local leader or an MP, what would you say to them about your experience of food insecurity, or what your friends or family have been through over the COVID-19 pandemic? And yeah, it was just a really good way to get young people speaking. And we found that a lot of the we got some really insightful information from this that we actually hope to put into our food poverty action plan for Hull, so that it's not just kind of been used as like a separate activity, but it's also kind of helped us to think about what young people want for the city, and to empower them to recognise that their voices are valued and that we are listening to what they're saying. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the next project. So the first one that we did was what do you put in your mouth? And then the second one was Breadwinners, which was funded by Betty's and Taylor's in around September last year. And this was primarily with Rooted in Hull, which is the urban agriculture project that Carrie already mentioned. And it was all about teaching young people about healthy eating and providing them with the skills to cook nutritious food from scratch. And it was, we got funding for an 8-week course with 13 local young people who have special needs and from low-income backgrounds, who were often accessing food parcels from the Warren to get hands-on lessons about cooking and nutrition. So we did a variety of different kind of activities with them, ranging from, as you can see in the classroom, we did like 2 nutrition sessions to talk about you know, all the fuel that goes into your body and why it's so important. But then we didn't just do the kind of the informative background information, but then we also went on to go into the Scran kitchen and do things like cooking with sustainable local vegetables to make soups. I think we did a butternut squash and bacon soup on the one in the right hand corner there, and then the left hand corner you can see we were making bread there as well, and then there's the beehives at Rooted in the bottom right hand corner there too. We also did things like going to supermarkets and practicing reading the labels on the back of food. A lot of the young people hadn't heard of things like fructose before, so they didn't realize that it was different forms of sugar. So it was really good to be able to practice doing those like label reading together, so that everyone could kind of understand what we're putting in our bodies, really. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is from our final Breadwinner session, where we had a practice Christmas dinner all together on the 10th of December. And it was to kind of, I guess Christmas dinner seems a bit overfacing to the best of us at times, because there's so many different elements and moving parts, but we made it a special effort as a team to all kind of work on putting a Christmas dinner together, so that if anyone did want to cook it for themselves, they could just go home and they'd feel the confidence to be able to do it. Because I think that's one of the things that Cara mentioned as well. One of the issues with the young people was that there was a bit of a lack of confidence at the beginning, and that they hadn't spent an overly large amount of time in the kitchen. A lot of them had been relying on takeaways and things like this. So it was really key to build up that kind of just exposure to different types of food, really. this is one of my favorite personal stories of change that we got. One piece of feedback we received from the Breadwinners sessions were hosted. It was something to do with, oh yeah, so he wanted to, or one of the young people said, like, oh, I wouldn't have ever dreamed of cooking Christmas dinner before, but this year I'm going to go into the kitchen and help my mum. And this was from a young person who was constantly saying that he'd never cooked his own meals. He was a self-confessed takeaway addict. So that was a really positive feeling of change towards the end of the program. Just as a quick, before we move on to the final slide, or you can put up the final slide if you want, Andrea. Yeah, I'd say as a point, behavioral change takes a long time, even with young people who have got, you know, very malleable brains and always kind of wanting to listen and learn new things. But at the beginning, it was difficult because we would do things like we would have a nutrition session, and then 3 or 4 of the young people would just go across the road to Domino's and get a takeaway. So it's one of those things that you have to kind of be very patient and recognize that it's a slow approach to these kind of pieces of work, and it takes exposure and it takes time. But we're really grateful for the funding that we've had, and we do genuinely believe that by the end of the 8 weeks, we did see definite improvement and excitement about food in the young people that we worked with. So I hope I'm in time. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll pass on to the next speaker.
Hello, I'm Adrian Fisher. I'm the director and co-founder of Rooted in Hull. You've been hearing a little bit about us as everybody's been saying what's going on, which is very nice, thank you. We actually started Rooted in Hull in 2013. If you'd like to put the next slide on, please. As you see, well, maybe you can't, but it's actually on a piece of vacant land, and it's not very far from the city centre, so it's only a 5-minute walk, something like that. And our aim when we started in 2013 is still just the same now, and it's very simple. It's just connect people to good food. And we've developed from there. And interestingly, we're on what is called a meanwhile site. That is, we just utilise a piece of vacant land. And you can do this in any city. We got the inspiration from visiting London especially, but we looked in Bristol and up to Glasgow, and realised that there's pieces of land over in many cities, and you can, with a little bit of persuasion, you can try and obtain it and then utilise it. So everything on the site is movable. And so within the shipping containers there, we have a shop, we have a kitchen, and we just got a bakery there, which we're trying to develop. And it's all about this example of showing people, well, this is what you can do. We have something like 75 raised beds, so we can demonstrate how to grow veg in there. We grow quite a lot of herbs. That seems to be a big interest now. And we can utilize that through the shop. We can, anything spare goes through the kitchen, so we do soup. That works really well for the group work. So if you'd like to put the next slide on, please. Yeah, that just shows another view of it. So that's sort of the entrance in. And if you move on to the next slide, please. It's just one of the sort of many groups we get. We're a mixture of business, community, and education. And this is where we start doing a lot with young people. And interestingly, it's like the Warren, who have been very supportive of us, and it fits in well with what we're doing. But this is a group from Hull University who came along as well. They were looking at sustainability. So they usually manage to get a lunch out of us when they come. So this is all from the produce which we produce on the site. And we show them around and let them know what we do. And hopefully that sustainability comes out, because we don't just look at the food there, we look at the environmental impact, what we're having as well. So we have solar panels, we have a composting toilet, we have reed beds, we have water harvesting. We've just started with bees, so we have our own aviary now. So there's lots going on, but it's all about encouraging people. Could we have the next slide, please? I think you've seen this one before, actually. This is the Warren doing the beehives, and really that was this is a new venture for us, which we were looking at. We've always said we would have animals on the farm, but of course, being in the centre of Hull, it's not as easy as that. But we've now got bees, so we can class them as animals, I suppose, and it's great to have them there. So we're quite unique, really, managing to have bees in the centre of Hull. And we're now talking to other community organisations in Hull to see if we can put more hives there, so we can be really getting honey from lots of hives throughout the city. So there's lots of things going on. Could we, next slide please? Yeah, which is the last one. But it's interesting. We try and do more with young people if we possibly can. We seem as though we can get like the Warren, which are very closely involved, and then it seems to jump. It's either the college or the university, where a big hurdle is trying to contact the schools, and they seem to now have a very limited budget. Or we have just started a discussion now with 9 schools who are interested in coming to learn more about food. And it's getting over that problem of having the budget for young people to come out. But hopefully there's pressure now coming from the teachers, which are saying, you know, the children need to learn about food, and what better way to do it but than to see it practically happening rather than just being book led all the time. So we're really pushing hard in Hull for this, and I know the Food Partnership along with us are keen that we can get more young people involved, because that's what it's all about. You know, the future is theirs, and we've got to make sure that they understand that bit more about food. So yeah, I think that wraps me up. Thank you.